The cathedral bells stopped ringing 37 minutes ago. I stand at the altar in a champagne silk gown that cost 3 months of my curator's salary, feeling the weight of 200 pairs of eyes drilling into my spine. The dress fits perfectly, its corset bodice cinching my ribs like a beautiful, suffocating cage, its cathedral train pooling behind me in a river of imported French lace. My bouquet of white peonies and garden roses trembles in my grip, the stems damp from my sweating palms. The rustle of restless guests fills the vaulted space. Whispers rise and fall like waves against ancient stone. The Gothic cathedral, all soaring archways, medieval columns, and stained-glass saints casting judgment in fractured colored light, has become my public execution chamber. Sophie, my maid of honor and best friend since college, squeezes my elbow. Her emerald dress matches the bridesmaid's, but her face has gone pale beneath her carefully applied makeup. "Elena," she whispers urgently, her voice cracking. "Maybe we should." "He's coming," I interrupt, my voice steadier than I feel. My eyes remain fixed on the massive oak doors at the cathedral's entrance. Michael's just running late. Traffic. Or cold feet. He'll be here. Even as I say the words, I know they're lies I'm telling myself. 3 years. 3 years of building a relationship with Michael Kors, investment analyst, real estate heir, society darling. 3 years of enduring his subtle dismissals of my career as a nice hobby, and his pressure for me to accept a more appropriate position planning charity galas for his mother's friends. 3 years of making myself smaller, quieter, more palatable, convincing myself that compromise was what mature women did. And now this. Abandoned at the altar like a Victorian melodrama, except the humiliation is brutally, devastatingly real. Father Morrison, the elderly officiant, approaches with careful steps, his vestments rustling. His weathered face carries an expression of practiced sympathy that makes my stomach drop. He extends a folded piece of paper, expensive stationery, Michael's personal letterhead. I recognize his angular handwriting before I even take it. "I'm sorry, my dear," Father Morrison murmurs. "The groom asked me to give you this." My fingers are numb as I unfold the note. Sophie leans in, reading over my shoulder. The words blur, then sharpen with devastating clarity. "Elena. I can't go through with this. I've been trying to convince myself for months that I could, but I can't. You deserve someone who can handle your ambitions, your independence, your constant need to prove yourself. I've realized I love someone else, someone who understands what I need from a partner. Jessica and I are leaving today. Please don't try to contact me. I'm sorry. M. Jessica." His co-worker at Kors and Associates. The 24-year-old junior analyst with the bright smile and the uncomplicated personality who laughed at all his jokes and never challenged his opinions on anything more serious than lunch reservations. The cathedral seems to tilt. My vision darkens at the edges. Behind me, the whispers crescendo into barely concealed gasps and murmurs of scandalized pity. Someone's aunt says loudly, "Oh, that poor girl." Another voice responds, "I always said she was too ambitious for him." Sophie's arm wraps around my waist, steadying me. "Elena, we're leaving. Right now. Hold your head up, and we walk out of here together." I nod mechanically. Yes. Leave. Salvage whatever dignity remains from this disaster. Return the gifts, cancel the honeymoon, face my colleagues at the Metropolitan Museum on Monday with the knowledge that everyone knows I was rejected on my wedding day because I wasn't soft enough, compliant enough, simple enough for Michael Kors. I gather my train, preparing to turn, to descend the altar steps and walk back down that impossibly long aisle past 200 pitying faces. The cathedral's main doors explode open. Not open. Explode. The sound of ancient oak and iron hinges slamming against stone walls echoes through the vaulted space like a gunshot. Every head whips toward the entrance. A man strides through the doorway, backlit by afternoon sunlight that renders him momentarily into shadow and silhouette. But even in shadow, his presence is overwhelming, a physical force that seems to compress the air itself. He's tall, easily 6'3", wearing a charcoal three-piece suit so perfectly tailored it must have been made by a European master. As he moves forward down the center aisle, the light catches him fully, dark hair slicked back from a face that could have been carved from Carrara marble, all sharp angles and Mediterranean severity. His skin is olive-toned, his jaw shadowed with precisely maintained stubble, his nose aristocratic and slightly cruel. But it's his eyes that stop my breath. Dark brown, almost black, cold and calculating as a predator's. And they're locked directly on me. 6 men in equally impeccable suits flank him, moving in synchronized precision. Their jackets hang open just enough to reveal the unmistakable bulge of shoulder holsters. No one tries to hide it. They want us to see. The congregation erupts in gasps and confused murmurs. Several guests half-rise from their pews. One of the ushers moves as if to intercept the strangers, then freezes when one of the suited men simply looks at him. The dark-haired man continues walking with the unhurried grace of a lion surveying his territory. His footsteps echo on the ancient flagstones, sharp, deliberate, inexorable. The late afternoon sun streaming through the rose window catches the metallic threads in his suit, making him appear almost otherworldly. He reaches the altar without anyone daring to stop him. Up close, he's even more devastating, brutal masculine beauty combined with an aura of barely leashed violence. A faint scar cuts through his left eyebrow. His cologne is expensive, dark, and overwhelming, cedar and leather and something smoky. His gaze sweeps over me with an intensity that feels physical, taking in the wedding gown, the trembling bouquet, the notes still clutched in my hand. Then his eyes return to mine, and I see something flicker there, recognition, possession, triumph. When he speaks, his voice is deep, accented with the musical cadence of northern Italy, and carries easily through the stunned silence. Elena Collins. My name in his mouth sounds like a claim, not a greeting. Your groom won't be joining you today. His lips curve into something that might be a smile on a less dangerous face. Michael Kors is otherwise occupied, running from a $3.5 million debt he owes me. The cathedral erupts. But I can't hear the gasps, the shouts, the chaos. I can only stare at this stranger who has somehow just turned my nightmare into something infinitely more terrifying, and inexplicably, somewhere in the frozen center of my chest where my heart should be breaking, infinitely more alive. Who the hell are you? I demand, and I barely recognize my own voice. His smile widens, revealing perfect white teeth that somehow make him look more dangerous, not less. Santino Marchetti. And we need to talk about your fiancé's betrayal, and your future, Bella. He extends one elegant, ring-laden hand toward me. Because as of this moment, Elena Collins, you belong to me. If this story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from. And if you feel it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. Your support makes all the difference. The chaos that follows Santino's declaration is immediate and deafening. Guests surge to their feet, voices rising in a cacophony of shock and confusion. Michael's mother screams from the third row. Someone shouts about calling the police. The bridesmaids clutch each other, their faces pale with terror. Santino doesn't flinch. He doesn't even blink. He simply raises one hand, a single, elegant gesture, and his men move with military precision. They spread out along the perimeter of the cathedral, blocking the exits without a word. One positions himself near the elderly Father Morrison, who has gone chalk-white and stumbles backward toward the altar cross. The effect is instantaneous. The crowd's panic transforms into something colder, fear. People sink back into their pews, their protests dying in their throats. "Please," Santino says, his voice carrying effortlessly over the remaining whispers. "Remain seated. This won't take long, and I promise, no one here is in danger." His eyes sweep the congregation with predatory focus. Unless, of course, someone does something foolish. A heavy silence descends, broken only by muffled sobs and the rustle of expensive fabric. Sophie's grip on my arm tightens painfully. "Elena," she hisses. "We need to get you out of here." "This man is telling the truth," I interrupt, my voice surprisingly steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. I step forward, away from Sophie's protective grasp, until I'm standing directly in front of Santino Marchetti. Up close, he's even more overwhelming, taller, broader, radiating a heat and danger that makes my skin prickle. "What do you mean, a debt?" "Michael works for his family's firm." He doesn't." "He doesn't what, Kara?" Santino's lips curve into something too sharp to be called a smile. "Have secrets? Steal from dangerous people? Use you as his respectable cover while he planned to disappear with both my money and his mistress?" The word mistress lands like a physical blow. My vision swims. I grip my bouquet so tightly the stems crack. "That's impossible," I whisper, but even as I say it, pieces are falling into place. Michael's late-night conference calls. His sudden trips to the Cayman Islands for client meetings. The way he insisted on keeping our finances completely separate, claiming it was modern and independent. Santino watches my face with the attention of a man reading a book he's already memorized. $3.5 million, he continues, his voice almost gentle now, which somehow makes it worse. Laundered through fake property transactions over 8 months. And now Michael Kors is running. Kors and Associates handles high-end real estate acquisitions, Santino continues, pacing slowly around me like I'm a sculpture he's considering purchasing. Warehouses, commercial properties, luxury developments. Legitimate business, mostly. Your fiancé's father built an empire on integrity and hard work. He stops directly in front of me, close enough that I can see the golden flecks in his dark eyes, the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. Unfortunately, Michael doesn't share his father's honor. He approached me 18 months ago with a proposal: use his family's firm to clean money from my less publicly acceptable ventures. For a fee, naturally. Santino's expression hardens. What he failed to mention was that he planned to skim millions off the top while building his respectable life, complete with a beautiful, accomplished fiancée from a good family to legitimize him. The words hit me like successive blows. 18 months ago. Right when Michael proposed. Right when he started pushing me toward appropriate career choices and introducing me to his parents' society friends. "You're lying," I say, but my voice wavers. "Michael wouldn't use you?" Santino's laugh is cold and humorless. Elena Collins, 31 years old. Senior assistant curator at the Metropolitan Museum, specializing in Renaissance art. Father deceased, mother remarried and living in Arizona. No siblings. No family money. You were perfect, respectable, educated, photogenic, but financially vulnerable enough that you wouldn't ask too many questions about his sudden wealth. The accuracy of his knowledge should terrify me. Instead, I feel something else rising in my chest: rage. Behind me, the congregation erupts again. Michael's mother is screaming about slander and lawsuits. His father has gone gray, clutching his chest. Sophie is shouting at Santino's men, demanding they let people leave. One of the groomsmen, Brad, Michael's college roommate, pulls out his phone. "I'm calling the police right now." "You can't just." He freezes mid-sentence. One of Santino's men has appeared beside him, moving with impossible speed. The man doesn't touch Brad, doesn't threaten him. He simply looks at him with flat, emotionless eyes while his hand rests inside his jacket. Brad's phone clatters to the floor. As I said, Santino addresses the crowd without turning around, "Please remain calm. The police are welcome to come, though I suspect they'll be more interested in Michael Korza's financial crimes than my business dealings." I find my voice, cutting through the chaos like a blade. What does his crime have to do with me? Santino's attention snaps back to me, and for the first time, I see something like approval flicker across his features. "Everything, Bella," he says softly. "And nothing. That's what we're here to discuss." "The debt must be satisfied," Santino says, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Since Michael won't be paying, since he's currently boarding a private jet to Grand Cayman with Jessica Martinez and my money, I'll take something of equal value." His eyes rake over me again, but this time it's different. Not assessment. Possession. "You can't be serious," I breathe. "I don't have $3.5 million. I don't have anything. You have exactly what I want." The cathedral has gone deathly silent. Even the sobbing has stopped. Everyone is holding their breath, waiting. Santino takes a step closer, invading my space completely. I should retreat. I should run. Instead, I'm rooted to the spot, caught in the gravitational pull of this dangerous man. "I know everything about you, Elena," he says, his voice dropping to something almost intimate. "I know you stay at the museum until midnight researching provenance for pieces the senior curators take credit for. I know you submitted a proposal for the Renaissance exhibition 3 times, and 3 times your supervisor dismissed it because you're too young and lack gravitas. I know Michael told you to stop embarrassing yourself by pushing for recognition. Each word is a razor, cutting away the careful facade I've built around my relationship. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. I know you visit the Vermeer Gallery every Sunday morning when the museum is empty. I know that you dim yourself, shrink yourself, apologize for taking up space, and I know that every time you do, a part of you dies. Tears burn my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. You've been stalking me? I've been watching you, he corrects. For 6 months. Ever since Michael stupidly brought you to a charity gala I attended and I saw you light up discussing Caravaggio's use of chiaroscuro while he checked his phone and yawned. He reaches out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I don't, his fingers brush my jaw, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. Marry me instead, Bella. Not because I need a respectable wife to legitimize me, I'm far beyond redemption. But because I've decided you belong to me. I know your worth, Elena Collins, and it's far more than he ever deserved. The proposal is so absurd, so insane, that I almost laugh. No. Absolutely not. You're out of your... Michael's parents, Santino interrupts quietly. Robert and Patricia Kors. 73 and 68 years old. That firm is their legacy, their retirement, their life's work. They knew nothing about their son's crimes. His hand drops away from my face. Refuse me, and I'll have no choice but to collect the debt from them. They'll lose everything. Sophie's hand clamps around my wrist like a vice. Vestry. Now. She drags me toward the small room behind the altar before I can protest. Father Morrison steps aside wordlessly, his face ashen. The moment we're through the door, Sophie slams it shut and whirls on me. "Elena, listen to me very carefully." Her voice is shaking but fierce. "This man is a criminal. A mobster. You cannot seriously be considering. He'll destroy them," I whisper. "Robert and Patricia. They've always been kind to me. Patricia taught me her grandmother's marinara recipe. Robert walked me through the museum last month just to see my work. They're innocent. So are you." Sophie grabs my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. "Call the FBI. There has to be witness protection, something. And what happens while we wait for the FBI to maybe, possibly help? You saw those men. They're not making empty threats." Through the vestry's narrow window, I can see into the cathedral. One of Santino's men stands just outside our door, his posture relaxed but alert. He's not even pretending not to listen. His eyes meet mine through the glass, and he smiles, polite, professional, absolutely terrifying. "The police won't help," I say quietly. "Either they can't stop him, or they won't. Men like Santino Marchetti don't operate in the open unless they're untouchable." Sophie's face crumples. "There has to be another way. We could run." "Where?" "He's been watching me for 6 months, Sophie. He knows where I live, where I work, probably where you live. And even if we ran, what about Michael's parents?" I press my palms against my temples, trying to think through the panic. Robert Core's sitting in the third pew, his face gray with shock. Patricia sobbing into her handkerchief. They built that firm from nothing 40 years ago. It's not just their business, it's their identity, their pride, their legacy. Michael's crimes would destroy them. But there's something else, something I don't want to acknowledge even to myself. When Santino looked at me, really looked at me, I felt seen in a way Michael never managed in 3 years. When he recited details about my work, my passions, the things I care about, it was like he'd been studying a masterpiece, memorizing every brushstroke. "He knows about the Vermeer Gallery," I murmur. "Michael never even asked which paintings I liked." "Elena, that's not romantic, that's surveillance." "I know." I meet Sophie's desperate gaze. "But I also know I can't let innocent people pay for Michael's sins. And maybe..." I swallow hard. Maybe this is the only choice I have left. When I push through the vestry door, Santino hasn't moved. He stands at the altar with the patience of a man who has never doubted the outcome, his hands clasped loosely in front of him. The afternoon light through the rose window casts crimson and gold across his face, making him look like a Renaissance painting of a fallen angel. His eyes find mine immediately, and something flickers there, satisfaction, perhaps, or vindication. I walk toward him on unsteady legs, my wedding dress whispering against the stone floor. Sophie follows a step behind, her presence a silent protest. When I reach him, I lift my chin and meet his gaze directly. "Why me?" The question comes out harder than I intended. "You're clearly powerful enough to have anyone you want. Why go to all this trouble?" Santino's expression softens almost imperceptibly. "I don't want anyone. I want you." That's not an answer. Isn't it? He tilts his head slightly, studying me. "Your intelligence. Your fire. The way you refused to dim yourself even when he tried to extinguish you, though you came dangerously close to letting him succeed. You have something I value above all else, Elena, integrity. You'd sacrifice yourself for people who aren't even your family simply because it's right." He takes a step closer, his voice dropping. And now, you'll have something you've never had, a man who sees your worth and will never ask you to be less than you are. The words wrap around something broken inside me, and I hate that they land with such precision. I hate that this dangerous stranger sees me more clearly than the man I almost married. But if I'm doing this, if I'm trading my freedom for the Corps' family's security, I'm doing it on my terms. I straighten my spine, finding steel I didn't know I possessed. Then here are my conditions. I keep my career. Full autonomy over my work. You will never lie to me about what you do or what world I'm entering. I'm not a trophy or a possession. If I do this, I'm your partner, not your prisoner. Santino's eyebrows rise slightly. Impressed, maybe. Or amused. And when this dead is satisfied, I continue, my voice steady now, if I want to leave, you let me go. No threats, no retaliation. I walk away free. The silence stretches between us. Behind me, I can hear the congregation holding its collective breath. Santino regards me with those dark, calculating eyes, and I wonder if I've just signed my death warrant instead of a marriage license. Then he extends his hand, palm up, an invitation, not a demand. Agreed, he says quietly. Except the last part. You'll never want to leave, cara mia. But I'll give you the illusion of choice, for now. I place my hand in his. His fingers close around mine, warm, strong, unshakable. Then let's begin, Mr. Marchetti. The corner of his mouth lifts in something that might be a smile on a gentler man. He turns to Father Morrison, who looks like he might faint. Proceed. I cannot condone, the priest stammers. One of Santino's men shifts position. Father Morrison's protest dies mid-sentence. The ceremony unfolds with dreamlike surrealism. I'm aware of every detail with crystalline clarity, the cold metal of Santino's ring sliding onto my finger, the tremor in the priest's voice, Sophie's quiet sobbing behind me. The guests remain frozen in their pews, witnesses to either a wedding or a hostage situation, perhaps both. When it's time for vows, Santino doesn't wait for Father Morrison's prompting. He takes both my hands, his grip firm and possessive, and begins speaking in Italian. His voice carries through the cathedral, rich and resonant, the language rolling off his tongue like poetry or prayer. Even without understanding every word, I hear the weight of them, promises that sound more like declarations of war than love. Then he switches to English, his eyes never leaving mine. I vow to protect you with everything I am and everything I command. I vow to provide for you, shelter you, keep you from all harm. I vow that you will never be diminished, never dismissed, never made to feel less than the remarkable woman you are. His thumbs stroke across my knuckles. And I vow that you are mine now, in every way that matters. Not, I love you. Not, I cherish you. Possession, provision, protection. The vows of a conqueror, not a husband. When Father Morrison turns to me with desperate eyes, I realize I'm supposed to respond. No unprepared vows for the bride who agrees to marry a mobster under duress. So I meet Santino's gaze and speak the only truth I have left. I vow to honor the terms we've set. I vow to be your partner, not your property. And I vow that I will never lie to you, even when the truth is difficult. Something flickers in his expression, respect, perhaps. Desire, certainly. An unmistakable triumph. You may kiss the bride, Father Morrison whispers, as if speaking louder might make this nightmare more real. Santino's hand slides to the back of my neck, his fingers threading through my hair. He doesn't ask permission. He simply claims. The kiss is not gentle. It's commanding, possessive, branding, his mouth taking mine with the same absolute certainty he's shown since walking through those doors. I taste espresso and danger and something darkly intoxicating. When he finally pulls back, his lips brush against mine as he whispers, "Mine now. In every way that matters." The cathedral is silent. Then one of Santino's men begins applauding. Slowly, terrified, the congregation joins. The reception happens because Santino wills it into existence. The hotel ballroom I reserved months ago, the photographer I hired, the quartet playing Vivaldi, everything proceeds as planned, except the groom has been replaced by a Mafia boss and the guests look like hostages at a very expensive funeral. I watch Santino command the room with effortless authority. He moves between tables, shaking hands, exchanging quiet words that make grown men pale and nod vigorously. Guests who pitied me an hour ago now approach with trembling congratulations, their eyes sliding away from mine as if my new status might be contagious. Patricia Kors embraces me with shaking hands, whispering, "Thank you," over and over until her husband gently pulls her away. The gratitude in their eyes is worse than their earlier devastation. When the quartet begins the wedding waltz, Santino appears at my side and extends his hand. I have no choice but to take it. His hand settles at my waist as we move onto the floor, pulling me closer than propriety suggests. We sway to music I can barely hear over the pounding of my heart. "You deserve to know exactly what you've married into," Santino says quietly, his breath warm against my temple. Marchetti crime family. 5 generations, starting with my great-great-grandfather in Napoli. We have legitimate businesses, construction, restaurants, import-export, shipping. And less legitimate ventures. Protection services. Strategic gambling operations. Favors owed and collected. His hand tightens at my waist. "Your husband is not a good man, Elena. I won't pretend otherwise. But I am a man of honor. You'll never be harmed, never want for anything, and never be dismissed again. That is my promise, and I keep my promises." I should feel terrified. Instead, I feel strangely numb, like I'm watching this happen to someone else. "And Michael?" I hear myself ask. "Where is he now?" Intercepted at the airport. 3 hours ago. The words hit like ice water. What did you do to them? Santino's smile is cold enough to freeze blood. Nothing permanent. Yet. My men convinced them to return the money and disappear somewhere significantly less pleasant than the Cayman Islands. Michael is alive and unharmed. Consider it a wedding gift. We turn slowly beneath the crystal chandeliers. He gets to live knowing you're mine now. That the woman he discarded as too ambitious, too independent, too much, his eyes meet mine, dark and possessive. Chose me instead. Sometimes the cruelest punishment isn't death, cara mia. It's living with what you've lost. The music swells. His hand moves to the small of my back, pressing me closer. "Welcome to the Marchetti family, Mrs. Marchetti. Your old life ends tonight." 3 months later, I wake in silk sheets that cost more than my old monthly rent, in a bedroom larger than my former apartment, in a mansion that resembles a Renaissance fortress transplanted to the American countryside. The estate has 12-foot walls, security cameras disguised as ornamental fixtures, and guards who nod respectfully when I pass. At first, the surveillance felt like a prison. Now it feels like the most natural thing in the world, though I'm not sure if that's adaptation or Stockholm Syndrome. Sunday dinners are mandatory. Santino's family descends on the estate like a loving avalanche. 3 brothers, 2 sisters, countless cousins, nieces, nephews, and his formidable Nana Maria, who took one look at me and declared I was too thin. Now she arrives weekly with enough food to feed a small army, pinching my cheeks and teaching me Neapolitan curses that make Santino's brothers laugh until they cry. They've welcomed me with startling, overwhelming warmth. As if marrying into the Marchetti family under duress is perfectly normal. My career has inexplicably flourished. I'm now senior curator of Renaissance art at the Met, a position that opened when my former supervisor accepted an unexpected early retirement package, and the museum received an anonymous 8-figure donation earmarked for Italian masterworks. I don't ask questions. I simply do the work I've dreamed of for years. Santino attends every exhibition opening, standing silently in his immaculate suits while I give tours to donors and critics. He asks insightful questions about Caravaggio's tenebrism and Titian's use of color. He remembers artists' names, painting techniques, historical context, as if my passion has become his study. He's never forced intimacy. My bedroom remains mine, the door between our suites a boundary he refuses to cross without invitation. Some nights I hear him pacing in his study, conducting business in rapid Italian. Other nights, I find him reading in the library, Dante, always in the original language, his lips moving silently over verses about paradise and damnation. He remembers I take my coffee black with 1 sugar. He notices when I'm tired and wordlessly hands me his jacket when evening air turns cold. He looks at me across crowded rooms like I'm the most valuable thing he owns, and the only thing he'd die to protect. The man with blood on his hands brings me espresso in the morning and discusses the Divine Comedy over breakfast. The criminal who commands an empire asks my opinion on business strategies and actually listens. And somewhere in the accumulation of small moments, shared meals, late-night conversations, the weight of his gaze following me through museum galleries, I've stopped counting days until freedom and started wondering what it would mean to stay. 6 months after the cathedral, I stand in my doorway at midnight, watching Santino through the open door of his study. He's on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, his free hand gesturing emphatically. Even in casual clothes, dark slacks and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to his elbows, he radiates command. Ruthless, dangerous, absolutely in control. And completely devoted to me. I think about the woman I was with Michael. How I apologized for working late, for being passionate about my career, for taking up space. How I made myself smaller, quieter, more palatable, convinced that was what love required. With Santino, I've expanded into spaces I didn't know I could occupy. I've curated exhibitions that challenge convention. I've negotiated with international museums and won. I've become the woman I was always meant to be, not despite my marriage, but because of it. The debt was paid weeks ago. Michael's theft accounted for, the money returned, the Core's family business protected. Santino told me over morning coffee, his tone casual, as if he wasn't handing me back my freedom. "You can leave whenever you want," he'd said, not meeting my eyes. "Our arrangement is complete." I haven't left. Haven't even packed a bag. And tonight, I'm done pretending I don't know why. I cross the hallway and step through the doorway into his bedroom, the one threshold we've maintained for 6 months. Santino's conversation cuts off mid-sentence. He ends the call without preamble, setting his phone down slowly, his dark eyes tracking my every movement. He rises from his desk chair, approaching with predatory grace but giving me every chance to retreat. When he's close enough to touch, he stops. "Elena." My name is a question and a prayer. "I'm not here because I have to be," I say clearly, holding his gaze. "I'm not staying because you forced me. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you." I step closer, closing the distance between us. Not the man who saved me from humiliation at the altar, but the man who saw me when I was invisible. The man who memorized my coffee order and reads Dante and asks about Renaissance brushwork techniques. The debt is paid, Santino. But I'm not leaving. His expression transforms. The cold mafia boss, the calculating strategist, the dangerous predator, all of it falls away, revealing something raw and vulnerable and achingly human. Mia Mowgli, he breathes, his hands framing my face with devastating gentleness. My wife. Mia Regina. My queen. He pulls me close, and I feel his heart thundering against mine. Then let me show you what it means to be loved by a man who would burn the world for you. As his mouth finds mine, I realize the marriage that began in coercion has become my greatest act of free will, and perhaps, the truest love I'll ever know. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from. And if you felt it was really worth it, consider becoming a member to get early access to upcoming stories. And if you felt this story was really worth listening to, click the super thanks button. Your gesture makes all the difference and helps us continue creating stories that touch the soul.